Okay, so let's try this out. Yeah, so I watched most, if not all, of those videos, and a couple of things. Don't worry about the X step footwork. Let's start from the X step, and actually we're going to start from the plant and figure that out. So we'll do a whole progression of how to get your legs to work right. But what you were ending up with is something like this, or coming through sometimes. The last one looked better, right, where you added a little bit of hyzer tilt, and then there was kind of somewhere for this leg to go. So that's great. Working through it is awesome. The thing to add is an awareness of the rails. So as you're doing the straight walk up, if that's working better for you, do a straight walk up. Like, that's great. And backing up, knee pain, right? If it hurts, don't do it, basically. So if you're encountering pain, all that's telling you is you need to decrease the intensity or the number of reps or both until the form is right, and then hopefully you'll be able to do it more aggressively without any pain. So especially with pre-existing knee issues, let's be really careful about that. So don't go hard trying to learn this brace thing. Try to learn it very slow and controlled and just get the feel for it before you power it up, right? Because you'll learn it better slower and low intensity anyways. Like, all the young kids just run into it and try to learn it, and they're never going to learn how to brace well unless they happen to be really athletic and really lucky. So hyzer tilt is absolutely the key. If I'm here, there's nowhere for my rear leg to go. Once I get on a hyzer tilt, this is not a good hyzer tilt. I don't have a counterbalance. If I go to throw aggressively here, my brain will stand me up to get me back to balance. Our brain doesn't want our head to be outside of our base of support. So the way we can cheat that rule is to add a counterbalance. So once I have this back here in line with my spine, now I have a counterbalance. Now I can move aggressively and keep my balance, right? So that's the key. So the way to approach it is you're going to stand on this leg, which this is a simulation of a brace. It's not entirely accurate because my hips are on top of my base of support. In a dynamic brace, your hips are going to be here, right? Boom, airborne with your hips behind your brace. So this is like, we're assuming I'm creating my own artificial gravity by stopping my momentum so that the down force is going down that leg. So I can simulate that on a different angle by having this leg straight, right? So that allows me to take this balance out of it and get so I'm taking the front to back balance out of it. I'm taking the lean of my leg out, stacking that straight, and now I'm focusing on the lean of my torso and my counterbalance. So just get to where you can do this and throw here and keep your balance and not fall over. Then you're gonna power down a little bit, put this foot just in line behind you, like I have a little bit of an offset, but not much. And then I'm gonna do the same thing, but I'm gonna free up my foot, my rear foot, when I throw and let it drift targetward a little bit. So in your reps, you were like making the leg go somewhere. And if that's a necessary part of getting your body in the right shape, that's fine. But ultimately, we're not intentionally moving the rear leg. The rear leg is moving on its own to counterbalance the larger motion up top, right? So you want it to be a passive thing, just like how you don't want to bicep curl the disc into a pocket. You want to drive the elbow forward and the disc will fold into a pocket passively and then sling out passively. So same thing is happening with the leg. I'm not really trying to move my leg a whole bunch. I'm just letting my leg do what it wants to do, but let it reposition as I throw, right? So I'm specifically trying to not be consciously aware of what it's doing, but what I'm not doing is I'm not leaving it glued to the ground, right? Because there I don't feel any balance from it, right? But if I let it move, then it can help absorb some of the momentum of my shoulder, because I'm essentially throwing this shoulder forward. So I need something to like counter that, right? So that's just getting you used to extending the leg into this position that we found balance in before. So find balance here, and then shift a little tiny bit into that position and feel the leg extend. And then the next part of the progression is you're going to start here with your feet in line. So I have the same hyzer tilt. My head is closer to the camera than my hips. My foot is farther away from the camera than my hips. And I'm just going to add a bounce and then come back. Bounce and come back. So this is simulating loading your back foot a little bit on the X step. So just do that. Get used to feeling that. And then to make it more realistic, you can bounce and then push this hip back, which will coil you into that hip crease. So as I step, I'm going to coil, and you should feel a stretch like in your glute medius and maybe your IT band, because you're like pushing that way, right? I'm trying to like hip check someone over as I extend. And then I'm basically going to do the same thing on the front. So I'm going to shift. So I'm shifting into my rear glute medius, and then I'm going to shift into my front glute medius. So linear hip shift. And I'm shifting my weight. I'm not, the thing that everyone does wrong, I think it's wrong, it depends on how you throw, but people shift their weight straight into this foot. So that's what you were doing in your reps, right? You were shifting weight from this foot straight into this foot. So then where's your knee going to go? It's going to go straight into your other knee, right? If these two things are lined up, it's not going to work, right? So we want to get to this position. So where do your hips have to go? If my hips go towards my front foot, my knee goes towards my front knee. If my hips go straight towards the camera, then my rear leg is going to stay in counterweight mode, right? So the weight shift, and people that have been doing this for longer than me disagree with me on this point, so I'm not sure it's right, but it works as a cue to get people to feel this rear leg counterweight. And then once you have it, you can adjust back to a different model or keep this one, it doesn't matter. It's just a tool to get you to understand the back leg. But the point is, I'm shifting my weight on a third rail. So there's my front rail and my back rail, and never the two shall meet, right? But there's a third rail where my hips shift. So my hips aren't going onto the front rail, they're not going onto the back rail, they're staying on the third rail and shifting linearly towards the target for the purposes of this drill. So the whole thing looks like this. I'm here, I step and bounce in the back. During that time, I'm loading into this hip as much as I can. Boom, just to get the feel for it. So I should feel a stretch here. And then I'm going to shift and feel a stretch here and let the leg drift forward as it wants to. So in time, boom, boom. And you're just getting used to these weird positions of like sticking your hip out that way and then sticking your hip out this way, you know. So I'll try to actually do it a few times. Boom, 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 boom. And then more advanced than that, not that you need to do this, would be to open this foot a little more and load a little more here, and then drop into the heel and decompress a little bit more by straightening the front knee. I wouldn't do that yet for you with the knee thing. So I would stick to start here, get to where you can throw here, or fake a throw here. You can't actually throw like that, just for fun. And then, wow, my balance is bad because I'm trying to talk. Find your balance, then throw. Cool, okay. Then with the foot down, so adding a little bit of width. I'm not entirely in line, I have a little bit of width, and I can let the foot drift forward. Boom. And then adding a weight shift where I'm actually bouncing back and letting the foot, allowing the foot to drift behind. I'm not forcing the foot to drift behind. I'm just shifting my hips. So my hips come back hips go forward, and that allows the leg to slide forward to find my balance, right? Then you can add in being conscious of a hip load, which is again starting from balance with the foot behind, and then dabbing in the back, loading into this hip, feeling the stretch in the IT band. And then the same thing in the front, maybe dropping a heel into it and feeling the same stretch here, allowing the leg to drift behind. So what's going to change in actual throw? There was one other thing to add. I forgot it. I'm going to remember as soon as I stop filming. So that's how many steps is that? 1, 2, 3, and then 4. So that's a 4-step progression. Okay, so the last thing to add is an awareness that this is not a full walk-up. So in a full walk-up, what's going to happen, because it's going to be more dynamic, you're going to have more momentum going into the brace. You're going to get that same shape, boom, and then this leg is going to bounce here and come around for your follow-through. So if you look at a lot of Drew Gibson's throws, he does his whole walk-up, plants, foot bounces here, and then he ends up balancing like this, watching his disc fly. So that's what we want. Like a lot of beginner intermediate players throw, let me go throw this way. So they throw, the rear foot lifts straight up and starts coming around, right? Really good players, they throw, the leg bounces behind and then comes around. Even look at old players like Climo. Like, I don't like his form. I think it's a very old style. It's not beneficial. It's not the best thing we have anymore, but he made it work. But he even throws and his foot scoops up. So he has a little bit of the foot going that way first, right? But newer players throwing with, more modern technology, if you will, get more separation of their rails, and they're shifting their weight a little bit more laterally, not into the front foot. So the foot comes behind and then bounces around. So play with those and see if that progression helps you find more balance left to right in the brace. And let me know how it goes. See ya.